Hello. I didn't do that on purpose. It just timed nicely. I have my water. I've got my fireplace going. Welcome to my Friday fireside chat. Those of you guys who know me a little bit, oh my god, there's such cute birds outside right now. Oh, they're so cute. They're so cute. Hi, welcome. Welcome to the live stream. Those of you guys who don't know me or do know me, hi Lanny, welcome. I love the fireplace, so until I have a fire in my own penthouse or a cabin in the woods or a chalet, I have my beautiful fireplace on the TV. So it's my fireside chat. Welcome to the live stream. How are you guys? How was your week? I feel like personally myself, I have died and been reborn this week. Like seriously, yesterday was crazy for me. I had a morning where a lot of stuff around money came up and just old patterns that I was just like over it. I'm sick of, I know how to make money. I know how to create money, right? But it was this energy of like, but how do I keep it, right? How do I build it? How do I grow it, right? Like, why does my account go up and down so dramatically? Like, why can't I always have, a bunch of money in there at once, right? And it's more than, a budgeting thing. I've done that, right? It's more than managing your money correctly. I've done that. It's more than cutting back on expenses. I've done that, right? It's not about that. It's an energy thing. And so I really realized that. It's like yesterday I just kind of dug deep and sat down with myself and journaled and tapped, and I was frustrated and I didn't really work yesterday. I did a little bit, but like my day was like, I'm going to figure this shit out. Like I'm getting to the bottom of this because this is unacceptable, right? And I did some Reiki treatments towards myself, having the goal that I want. I realized the goal that I had set for myself money-wise was too low. And that was a part of the reason why I couldn't get behind it, because it wasn't exciting, because it was like, oh, well, I'm going to make that money and then the money's going to go to bills and whatever, right? Like it didn't feel like, oh, like I'll get to pay my bills and have some fun, right? So anyway, a lot going on. But in the evening, after I did all that work and had my moments, I just had this moment of like, enough is enough. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with these old paradigms. I'm done with my own excuses. I'm done with my own limiting beliefs. I'm done with the fears. Like, I'm just going to figure it out. I'm claiming my income goal, right? It's happening. Like, I don't know how. I don't care how. Don't care how, right? And this plays into imposter syndrome, right? And I wanted to talk about this yesterday, but because I was doing my own stuff, my own work, I didn't feel like I had the right headspace to fully go into it. But today, I certainly do. So imposter syndrome basically just means like you feel like unqualified, right? Like you feel like you're unfit, like you're not enough, somehow you don't know enough, right? Maybe you don't have the right education, you didn't have the fancy school, your parents didn't teach you right, you don't know it enough, you've been doing it for a short period of time, maybe because you're the wrong gender, the wrong race, or the wrong color, or the wrong whatever, creed, religion, who knows, right? But there are age, right? Age is definitely a part of it too sometimes on both sides of the fence. So feeling like an imposter is nothing new. And I definitely have felt that way myself in my own business, in my own life. And it's something that you have to consistently be on top of. Like, not all the time, like not every day. Like right now in my life, I don't feel like an imposter every day. Like I feel like I belong most days, right? But then there are days that I don't, right? So it's like acknowledging that when those days come, inevitably, and especially as you're expanding and growing and playing bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Because, if you're anything like me, you have big goals and you want to, help serve humanity and uplift humanity and grow a big business doing it and have a life of fun along the way, right? Like you want it all. And doing that takes, lady balls, and also it takes a lot of identity work and like shifting who you see yourself as and what you're capable of. And sometimes that involves, getting a certification or something like that. Like I don't have a coaching certification, but I'm a coach, right? Like, and I don't feel weird about that at all, right? Like I know that I was born to coach. I have other certifications. I have an EFT tapping certification. I'm certified in Reiki, right? but like I coach as well, and I'm not certified in coaching. So for me, like having a certification doesn't mean anything in that area of my life, right? But to somebody else, it might be a big deal. They'd be like, oh my God, I don't have the certification to do this or do that. Like obviously there are some jobs where you're going to need it, right? Like if you're going to be a doctor, a traditional medical doctor, yeah, you got to go to school and get the paper, right? But there are so many jobs in this world, so many careers, so many businesses. My God, like people in business, like half of them just learn on the go, right? People just pick up a book, start learning, work for somebody else, right? And they pick up the skills and the know-how to do it. And as long as you can do the job, as long as you can walk the walk and back your shit up and be like, no, I can get you this result, right? If you do the work, I know how to get to this result. I know how to get you from point A to point B, right? The rest is up to you as a client. But as the practitioner, facilitator, business owner, like I promise this result if you follow the instructions, right? If you are sure of that, if you know for a fact that you can teach somebody this or show them the way, then you are qualified, right? And so that's only one little piece of feeling like an imposter is, feeling like maybe you don't know enough or you don't have enough knowledge or enough know-how, right? Hi, Davina. Hi, Krista. Welcome. That's one part of it. And so either you get the qualification, right? The solution there is get the qualification, or you decide that you're enough now anyway. You decide that, hey, I can get this person a result, right? I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. I have results to back it up. So therefore, I'm going to do it, right? And I can't tell you which one is the right move for you. Only you can decide that in your heart and your soul. But sometimes I see people using like qualifications like as a reason to not go for their dreams, right? So just be aware of where that limiting belief is coming from or that story. Like, is it coming from the place of like, I just don't want to move forward and I'm afraid. So I'm going to just hide behind this excuse that I need to have one more certification, right? Like I see this a lot in my field, right? Coaches, energy healers, light workers, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot of people like being like, okay, I want to have this coaching certification, and then they do that and then they still don't feel enough and they're like, okay, I'm gonna have another one, and they do that and they still don't feel enough, and I'm gonna do another one and they do that and they still don't feel enough. And like from that point of view, it's not the coaching certification, it's not more knowledge that will make you feel enough. In that case, it is a belief system, it is a pattern of self-talk. Most likely it is something from your childhood that needs to be addressed, right? Or past life, but most likely childhood, right? So it's like, if you feel like you're on that hamster wheel and you're not, like, of course, nothing is wrong with taking a certification, right? Nothing is wrong with being more educated and seeking out knowledge. I love learning. I love seeking out knowledge. It's like, it's something that I have to stop myself from doing because I can spend so much time doing it that I'm like, hey, like, we need to balance out our time. Like, I love learning so much, right? But I'm learning from a place of like, I want to know more. And like, that's just my personality, not because I feel like I'm not enough now. Right? Do you see the difference? There's a difference there. So just lean into yours and see where that's coming from. Is it in fact, you do have to learn more and that's important for you to be able to be somebody who gets results and somebody who can be in integrity with their work? Or is it that you're just not giving yourself enough credit and you have maybe a wound around feeling like you're enough from childhood, right? It could be like, when you were growing up, maybe you had a parent that made you feel like you never did enough, right? They never complimented you, they only criticized you, or they only told you, oh, that you could have had an A plus instead of an A, or whatever it is. Or it could be something else, something more, major, or something maybe less major. But there's probably something that you have to address first in your past, right? And you just start being curious and asking yourself these questions, and maybe put your hand over your heart and ask yourself, like, where is this coming from? This feeling of not being enough. Like, where is this familiar in my past, right? When did this start? And you might not have the exact moment in time, doing this with yourself because, oftentimes it's hard to see our own shit, but you'll start to like pull apart the layers, right? When my clients work with me, we get to the exact, the exact moment in time, the exact memory. So like, working with somebody can really make that fast tracked, but by yourself, you certainly can start to do the work and peel back the layers and be like, this is a pattern that started here, right? Back there. Maybe I just don't know where it started, but I've always felt this way. And why did I begin to feel this way? Right? Maybe you compared yourself to your siblings or whatever the case is. Davina says, I love the eyeshadow. Oh, thank you. I tried extra hard today. I was filming some TikToks earlier and I just was in a vibe of like girliness. So thank you. I appreciate it. I'm learning. Almost 30, learning to do my eyeshadow. That's my goal for turning 30 this year. Um, but anyway, yeah, so definitely explore your past, right? And then once you have like the story around it, or like the memory or the situation or the multiple situations that happened that created the belief in your mind that you're not enough, you're not good enough, you've got to learn more and do more constantly out of a need to prove yourself, to prove how good you are, right? Then it's a matter of working on that, right? So I always teach EFT tapping. I do it a lot. That's really effective, right? You can use Reiki on it. You can, send love and light to it energetically. You can just decide, that just because, let's say your mother was critical of you, that doesn't mean that you aren't enough, right? That was her filter. That was her own traumas, most likely from her own past and whatever the fuck, right? You can decide at any moment that a past event has no meaning on what you're going to go do in the future, what you're going to feel going forward, right? You really can switch it in a moment. Of course, some things are more sticky and take more time and attention. This isn't something that you just do once, most likely. Some cases can. But most likely you will have to, constantly be leaning into it. And if it comes up again, like, okay, same pattern, that's okay. I'm just going to reframe this again, right? And you just do it until it sticks. You do it until it sticks. You do it until it sticks. And then becomes second nature. And then like myself, you go for long periods of time without feeling like an imposter. You feel great. You feel like I can do this, right? And maybe you don't have enough experience yet in it too, right? Like if you're a beginner in something, that's also a really obvious point in time when somebody feels like an imposter, right? Like when I was first starting this business, like I felt like an imposter. I felt like, who the fuck am I? Like I see all these amazing coaches, all these amazing women in my world, my friends, like everyone around me is like a badass. Like I like literally like all my friends are really like into business. They're healers or just really heart-centered people. Like I'm really not lucky I created that, right? But I'll just say I'm lucky in that way. All my friends are amazing, right? And so it's like I'm in that circle. I'm in that circle online and offline. And when I wanted to enter it myself, I was like, like even though I saw that around me, I felt like, oh, well, do I have permission to do it though? Like, can I? Like, I'm new at this. Like, who's going to take me seriously? Who's going to want a session with me? I don't know. Like I have a calling on my heart. I know deep down I want to do this. I know deep down that I'm meant to do this, right? In my soul. But can I, right? Will anyone care? Am I too young? Am I inexperienced, right? And so in the beginning, I did do a lot of free sessions with people, right? And like, obviously this depends on what you're doing and the levels you're at, right? Like if I was talking to you one-on-one, we'd get at more of the pinpoint of why you yourself feel like you're an imposter, right? But in this scenario, like I needed to do the experience, like I need to get the experience to build the confidence, right? Even though I was scared and even though I, was nervous and like, can I do it? I really knew I had to. So I did a lot of like free sessions in the beginning of my business because I wanted to build that self-confidence in myself and show myself that, hey, the techniques that you've been doing on yourself also work for other people, right? So maybe you've got to do some free sessions or whatever that looks like for you to actually start doing the work if you've not done it yet, if you're still new, right? That could be part of it too. But then also it's really just a matter of reminding yourself of like all the people that you've helped and like, even if it's not your business or your, your spiritual business or whatever you're doing, like specifically you watching this right now, like you've helped many other people before in your life, right? Like for myself, I can think back to times in my life that I was always rooting people on and I was always the cheerleader, like literally and metaphorically. I was always a cheerleader to people and I could motivate them and I could inspire them and I can get the energy moving in a positive direction my entire life, right? So whatever you are trying to do and step into that you feel wobbly around, look back at your life and see how there are parts of you and essences of you in the past that have done a similar thing, right? Maybe it's not the same business or structure or, setting, right? But you yourself have used those skills in the past. And so it's about really just acknowledging the strengths and the successes that you've had, right? And over and over and over again. And now that, I'm almost 2 years into this. In the spring, it'll be 2 years into this. It's like, I feel secure. Right? There are still days that I don't feel secure. There are still days that come up where I'm like, oh, wow, that person's pretty awesome at what she does, right? Like, I had this thought a couple days ago that I was feeling kind of funky, and I was like, damn, there are some amazing coaches out there, right? Like there are some amazing healers and coaches and energy workers and psychics and all that, right? And I kind of got into the space of like comparing myself to them. And I was like, okay, I just noticed it, right? Like it's natural and human to do that. So I just noticed it and I was like, okay, but like really what's the real deal here? What's the truth here? Sure, like those people maybe are further ahead of you, right? Like they've been practicing longer. They've been practicing their craft longer. They've been doing it longer. They've maybe had 10 years at this. Maybe they started when they were children, diving into energy work and stuff. I don't know their story, right? So there's always going to be somebody who is 10 steps ahead of you. Always. Always. But that doesn't mean that you can't help somebody, right? So even though there is somebody who's 10 steps ahead of me in what I am doing, first of all, they are not me, right? They don't have the experiences I had. They don't have the background that I had. They don't have the life experience. They don't have the perspectives. They didn't have the same childhood and that lens that created, right? They don't have my blend of magic. They have amazing magic, but it's their own, right? And I have my own. And that's a good thing. And also I think too, it's like, oh, well, why would somebody hire me if there's somebody, who's more experienced? Well, a couple of reasons. Like I just said, you are yourself, right? There's only one you, right? People can relate to you and they'll only relate to you. And then that person also has the clients that only relate to them, right? Like we've all heard stories or information from different sources, right? And you know how you get to like one certain source and like you've heard the same piece of information like 10 times. But on the 11th time with that person, it lands. Like we've all had that moment. Let me know in the comments if you've had those moments before where it's like, oh, I've heard this 1,000 times before, but right now from this person, it clicked, right? And it's because that person was meant to tell you that message, right? They are meant to tell you that message. It wasn't meant to come from somebody else. You weren't ready for it, or you just weren't a match or whatever, right? There's no judgment. There's no like hierarchy in this. It just is what it is, right? So that's number one. Secondly, I was comparing myself to somebody who like makes like $3 million a year, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like she's so amazing because she like makes all this money and like look at all her clients and look at all the testimonials she has, right? And I was comparing myself in that way. And it's like, obviously that's amazing, right? And yes, I will get there at some point. I promise I will get there. But it's like, where I'm at is perfect for somebody else, right? Like, where she's at might be actually too far of a gap for some clients. Do you see what I'm saying? So like if you're somebody who's like just starting out in a business, for example, a spiritual business, right? And you're like, okay, I want to learn how to get my first client, right? Are you likely going to hire the $10 million mentor? Probably not, because they're teaching people how to make 7 figures, right? You're not ready for that yet. You're not there yet. You just want to sign your first client. You just want to put out your first offer. Right? Her way of doing things and her energy is probably too far of a gap from where you are, right? So there's always somebody who's a couple steps ahead of you who you'll feel more comfortable learning from because they are just a few steps ahead. They're not 10,000 miles ahead, right? Like it makes you feel like it's possible. And also the person who's a couple steps ahead of you, like if I'm mentoring somebody who's behind me a few steps, right? I'm still connected in a way to like their struggles, right? So I'm not so far into like, whatever you want to say. Like I'm not like astrologically far apart from them, right? So I can still see like the missteps that they would make. Whereas somebody who is already blown past the beginning and has now been in business for 20 years probably forgets what it's like at the beginning. They probably forget what it's like to first start your business, right? They forget because they're not there anymore and they're very far apart from it, energetically, mindset wise, and everything, right? So don't let somebody else's like success and them being like 30 steps ahead of you make you feel like nobody's going to hire you or nobody wants to hear what you have to say. They really do, because you are connected still to that level, so you can relate to them and you can be like, hey, I get it. I've been there, right? And I'm just like 5 steps ahead. So, hey, here's the path to get to where I'm at. Right? Does that make sense? Lucretia says, totally guilty of this. Yeah, we all are, right? And again, it'll get to the point, like when you keep doing this and reminding yourself of these truths, right? Things you can get behind, it'll get easier and easier and easier to just stay in the energy of like, yeah, I belong here. Right? And you might have a day that's off here and there, like I do. Like maybe once a month you might feel like triggered or intimidated by somebody who's like you idolize or you put on a pedestal, right? But it's important to remind yourself that they're just human like you, right? They're not, they're not, they are special because we all are special, but we also all aren't special, right? Like we're unique and we're all the same at the same time, right? So it's like, don't put people on pedestals because like they're just a few steps ahead of you or, you know, had knowledge that you didn't have yet or whatever. Like nobody is actually better than you, right? They're just at a different place. And when you just kind of bring it back into perspective, like it makes it all okay. It makes it all okay. And just remind yourself of how talented you are. Because the fact is, if you can help somebody right now, whatever your field is, if you can help somebody right now, it's really kind of selfish of you to back off because you don't feel good enough, right? Like what if I told you guys, people that like rely on me for my messages and my, you know, inspiration and whatever, oh, I just don't feel good enough. So you know what? I'm just going to like cancel our sessions and I'm just going to stop showing up on Facebook because I just don't feel good enough. Right? Like that wouldn't be appreciated. They'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, of course you're good enough. Like, I want to learn from you. Right? That's how people are going to feel about you and do feel about you. Like, if you can help someone, help them. It's not about you. It's about your gifts and the value that you have to add and the, you know, the energy you can infuse in people's lives and the positivity. Like, you don't know, like, what your words mean to people. Like, you have no idea. You know, or your products or your services. You have no idea. Like people can come to you and they might be thinking about killing themselves, right? Like honestly, and you share a kind word and share something nice and have a nice smile even, or whatever, your energy, whatever it is, and maybe you save a life. Like it literally can be like that, right? Like I've had moments like that even working in the restaurant industry when people have told me like, wow, like you, like my energy like makes their day, right? And truly, you don't know what people are thinking of and how dark that they are, right? But you being you and shining your light and your knowledge and sharing it is impacting lives. I can't tell you how many people, like I'll see people on the street sometimes, right? In COVID, maybe less these days, but still, I still do. And I'll see people outside or at an event or something, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I love your content. What you said the other day was so inspiring and like, made me do things differently in my life. And I'm like, you did? Because you didn't like my post. You didn't comment anything. Like, I have no idea people are watching me sometimes. And then they tell me later on they are and how much it meant to them and how much it impacted them. You know? So I just want you to like take that with you and just breathe that in and soak it in and realize it's the same thing for you. You and I are no different. Right? But you've got to decide that you're going to try to feel enough, right? Decide that, okay, I don't know everything. There's somebody ahead of me. There's somebody better than me, more skilled, more equipped. Of course, there always is, right? But that's okay because I can help somebody behind me. I can still do this. I can still impact. Like, think about it. The world right now, does the world right now need more light workers or less? More, right? The world needs more of us. So even if you don't feel qualified, if you don't feel enough, if you're called for a reason. Like desires that come from soul don't just like drop out of the sky. Like they come because God's source universe is calling it through you because it knows that you are worthy of it and you have what it takes. And it may take you a journey, right? Like you may have to, you know, grow and evolve and, you know, work through your own traumas and your own limiting beliefs, right? But you're called for a reason. It's not just random. Like this universe doesn't work randomly. It really doesn't. Everything is down to a T. And that includes the things that you want from a soul level. So if you want this, if you want to show up, if you want to, you know, start that business, whatever the thing is you're trying to make your impact in, and it's coming from your soul and your heart, and it's like this knowing deep down, then it's meant for you. It's coming for a reason, right? So let that be enough. Like even when you're doubting, even when you're in a state of like, you know, being hard on yourself, tune back to that because that is truth. And I know that it lands with you. I know because it's truth. It's just truth. And your soul like, oh yeah, yep. She's right. So that is my sermon today. If you guys want to work on this aspect or some other limiting beliefs you have around your next steps in your business, starting a project, starting a podcast, whatever it is, and you know that there's some things that you need to shift and mold into place at deep levels. I don't just do mindset work. I do energy work. I do inner child healing. I do EFT tapping. I do stuff at a deeper level. And so if you feel like you need that support, there are 3 spots right now left in Unstoppable. It's a single session, 60 to 90 minutes, and it's you and me. We're going to dive deep around what is really stopping you, what is really in your way, shift that, right? And if it's relevant, we'll talk about the next logical steps for you that are aligned for you to take to build momentum. But I really want you guys to have this chance to like sort out your energy and really make 2022 actually your year, right? Actually the year that you do the thing you've had on your heart for many years, right? You can. I know you can. So if you want that, there's a link in my bio. I'll put a link below in this video after I hop off as well. It's called Unstoppable. It's $122. Very, very good price. Normally I charge $147 for this type of like one-on-one work with the follow-up afterwards. So just so you know. All right. I will talk to you guys soon. You guys can do it. You are qualified. You are enough. I believe in you. I love you. Bye.